About 2 years ago, a 19-year-old named Anthony Devaney was, I guess, walking at night along this road in Lake Elsinore, California, and a car hit him. And unfortunately, Anthony died on the spot. So his parents decided to put a memorial in the spot where he died. And it was a large cross that was kind of kept in that position. You guys have seen these roadside crosses before. That's what this was. It was a big one, too. So, people let them grieve. No one had any problem with the cross, but about 6 months later, the American Humanist Association, through someone who lives in the city, said, it's about time that cross comes down because technically, as the longer you keep it up, the more it looks like the government is allowing that to be on there. And they probably wouldn't do that for anyone if they weren't Christian, so they should take it down. And the city of Lake Elsinore said, you're right, we will take it down. So they did. They took it down. And then the mother was very upset about that, as you might imagine. So the city put the cross back. And then for about a year, the American Humanist Association said, okay, but you got to take it down now. And the city said, we will. And they never did, because you can imagine how uncomfortable that conversation would be with the mother. So now it's about 2 years later, and the American Humanist Association once again said, look, you wouldn't treat any other religious symbol like this. And by allowing this cross to stay here, you're basically saying we're going to give this exception to the law because someone's Christian. That's what it looks like from the outside. And even if it's not, this would be chaos if other people decided, I can put my religious symbols up anywhere I want to in the city. If it's public property, it's my property. Well, finally, the city decided they were going to have to tackle this one way or the other. And eventually, the mother of the boy who died said, fine, I'll take it down. And she ultimately did. Now, you can imagine how this story got spun in the media. Everyone was like, oh, look what these horrible atheists were trying to do to this poor, grieving woman. And I kind of understand where they're coming from, because this is not an easy situation. This is a very personal, delicate situation. It's not like her cross was in a place that would be distracting. It's not like it was injuring anybody. And I really don't think the mother had a religious agenda of putting it there. She just wanted to honor her son. But at some point, you do have to start asking those questions, which is, how long should roadside memorials be allowed to be up on city property? Why can't they put up a memorial somewhere else? And was the AHA, was the American Humanist Association, were they just being jerks, or were they standing up for principle? And believe me, I totally understand both sides of this story here, but I gotta say, it sounds like they're acting on principle. They're doing the thing I want them to be doing, which is taking a tough stance and asking the city to remove the cross. It's not an easy conversation. It is, basically hitting someone where it already hurts. We know this woman and her family. They've been hurt for a long time. They lost their son. You can understand why they'd be upset about it. But if you take the emotions away from it, you also kind of get the idea that that's the only reason they've been able to evade the law for this long, because no one wants to hurt someone who's already been hurt so much. But at some point, you got to step in and say, look, city, it's about time you remove these crosses. And again, if this were an atheist symbol, if it were an Islamic symbol, this would have been removed a long time ago. Maybe people would have given them a grieving period, but then it's like, okay, time to move it. And in fact, the woman moved her son's cross, this cross they made, to her backyard. And I think that's a good start. I think they can still grieve, and they can still, honor their son in a different way now. And to be honest, I think that makes a lot more sense, because I really don't understand this idea that we ought to honor where people died instead of how they lived. That to me would be a much better honor for anybody who dies, especially when they die so young. In a strange twist to this story, a couple of people in the city of Lake Elsinore, people, as far as I know, who are unrelated to the family in question, they decided that after the mother moved her cross away, they were going to replace her cross with several smaller ones. And they all have little messages on them. And they say things like, people suck, get a life. And, whatever happened to our freedom, with freedom underlined? And what if this were your child? If this were my son, and I hope it never is, I'd want to honor the way he lived his life, not just the place where this horrible thing happened to him. But it also raises this idea that, to me, those small crosses with these people co-opting this tragedy for their own agenda, that seems far more offensive to me than anything the American Humanist Association did. But yet I've seen no backlash against this couple of people putting up these small crosses. All the vitriol, and you can imagine what conservative websites are saying, all the vitriol has gone against the American Humanist Association for just kicking this poor woman, apparently, while she's down. But again, someone has to stand up for what the law says for church-state separation. And while I completely understand the grieving process, it's been 2 years. Now it's time for the city council to step in and say, we want you to honor your son. We want to honor your son, but let's plant a tree in his place. Let's do something else. If you want a religious memorial, do it on your own property. There's nothing wrong with saying that. I'm Hemant Mehta, and I write at friendlyatheist.com. Please leave your comments below, and we will check them out.